Welcome, and thank you for standing by. At this time, I'd like to inform all participants that today's call is being recorded. If you have any objections, you may disconnect at this time. You have been placed in a listen-only mode for the duration of today's conference. I would now like to turn the call over to Ms. Deb Rivera. Thank you, ma'am. You may begin.
Great. Thank you so much. Good afternoon and welcome. I hope everyone is having a great day today. Thank you so much for joining us for this month's webinar on data.census.gov news and updates for October of 2021. In today's webinar, we will be going over the latest enhancements that were released to the data.census.gov platform. My name is Deb Rivera. I work in the communications team for data.census.gov, and I will be the moderator for today's event. I want to go over some housekeeping items before we begin. As in our previous webinars, the chat feature is enabled today, and my lovely colleagues and I will be using it to send helpful links and answer as many questions as we can over the next 30 minutes. Due to anticipated time constraints, today we will be addressing questions via the chat only. To submit your questions, please select the All Panelists option from the drop-down menu, and this way all of our panelists can see your question. Also, please make sure that you do not include personal or sensitive information along with your questions. We will also provide our contact information in case you have any additional questions and wanted to reach out to us directly. Lastly, the slide deck and the recording for today's webinar will be posted on the Census Academy site, and we will send that link through the chat as well, so please keep your eyes out for that. Once again, thank you so much for joining us today, and now it is my pleasure to hand things off to our presenter for today, Ronald Williams. Thank you, Ron.
Oh, thank you, Deb. Thank all of you so much for tuning in this afternoon for our webinar on data.census.gov updates. As Deb said, my name is Ron Williams, and I work on the communications team for data.census.gov. So diving right into the content. What we have planned is really to focus on the latest updates that we pushed to the site in October. We're going to walk through those on the screen very briefly, and then I'm going to pull out some of the highlights and show them to you on the live site so you can see them even more clearly. And then we'll open up, as Deb said, they're going to take care of the questions via the chat today, and it's mainly because we're on such short time constraints. But let's go ahead and move on to our next slide. All of the enhancements that we do on data.census.gov is driven by user feedback. So we just wanted to take a brief moment to thank everyone that has submitted feedback to us on how we can make the site work better. This just shows on a high level that we collect your feedback on an ongoing basis, and we take a look at it, prioritize it, and then incorporate some of those solutions and develop solutions in our environment. We do some testing internally before we release those solutions to the public, and then they finally get released. So genuine thank all of you so much for those of you who have submitted feedback. Based on the feedback that we've received over the last couple of months, we were able to push out some enhancements to address those items. Now, shown here on the screen are the things that we've been working on in September and October. I won't read all of those to you, but I will mention that the more collections of geographies, the first item, we're going to touch on those in a few minutes. We're going to mention the others, and on the map improvements, I'll go to the live site and demonstrate that for you. So let's move into the more collections of geographies. You'll notice that there's 35 new options that have been added, and I won't read none of the slides while I'll read the entire slide on, but just take a moment and take a look at this. I'm amazed at how much information they've been able to push out. On the left-hand side, all of those geographies, you'll notice in blue at the top, it says neatly nested. So all of those neatly nest within a geography. On the right-hand side, you'll notice the blue border at the top, not neatly nested. And almost all of them say fully or partially within a different one. And the very first one, where it has the summary level, 050, that right-hand column, it says all counties fully or partially within a congressional district. And that gives you an idea of what you're looking at. And that's why those are not neatly nested, because they cross over some. So hopefully you've had time to look that over. When I mention that within other geographies, with the way data.census.gov, the advanced search is set up, when you open the screen and you click on the word geography on the far left-hand side, and as you answer, I guess you would say answer the questions, but select your filters as you move across, what you'll notice on this example is that we selected tract, and when we got to the county level within Arizona, at the very top, it'll say within other geographies, and I have it circled here on the screen. Just to the right of the circle, you'll see a chevron. It's pointing up at this point, but when you first open it, it's going to say within other geographies, and then the very next thing is going to say all census tracts within Arizona. This doesn't expand until you click the chevron just to the right. So be aware of that, and I'll demonstrate that in a few minutes. But that's something that's been added. I really like it. I think there's a lot of use for that, and we've already had people providing feedback, good feedback on it. This is the new improved table ID search. The text on the upper left, you'll notice that you can actually put in the table IDs. They'll be recognized when you search in a single search bar. And you'll notice that the example that's provided, you have B19013, and then you have a space, and B19001. And so that space, it's going to recognize it. And you can see on the left-hand side, it's somewhat subdued in the colors. But you'll see the list of tables that are going to be there. So another good improvement based on feedback. This is one that a lot of our users are enjoying because it makes something closer to, say, a Google search or some other system that you may be using, a web crawler even that's out there. I checked it, web crawler, it works there. But what you can do is you can type in the single search American Community Survey and click enter, and you'll get results. It's not going to tell you that that item is not found. Even if you type in ACS, it recognizes that acronym. You can read the rest of it there. It's hard not to read everything on the screen, but I just want to give you a moment to take it all in. The banner that's new. You'll notice with the text that says the banner indicates that it's a data.census.gov is an official secure website. On the right-hand side of that, just to the right, so the top center of the screen, you'll see by the American flag, it says an official website, the United States government. Here's how you know. With that .gov makes it official. With the HTTPS, then you know that you're secure. So that's something that's been added. I know it may seem minor, but it becomes important when individuals may not realize if it's really a government site or not. That's where it becomes important. I mentioned the map improvements a little while ago. And on this one, you can see at the very top of the image of the map, in the upper left, where you have the word total Hispanic or Latino. Okay, you can see where that is the label that's on this part. When we look at the legend that's down in the bottom to the left, you'll see that in that box, it tells you the ranges of those populations for, remember I mentioned the very top left, total Hispanic or Latino. You'll see it in the legend, the bottom left, total Hispanic or Latino. You'll see how they mirror each other. But on the right-hand side, above all of the numbers on the legend, you'll see GEOs 52. So what that tells you is that you have 52 geographies that it's looking at for the different colors for the different brands. That 52 is new. The others, the way it used to be, is you just had a number for each one. If you want to know how many geographies, you had to add it up. So this has been provided for you. Talks about some of the technical improvements. It mentions that you can see more than 16 maps. So there's multiple profiles that can be opened. This just gives an idea of what you will see, but just realize there are multiple maps. There's, of course, with there being 16, there's no way we can cover all of that today. Talked about the simplified labels. You notice there's only one code for each of the population groups in the filter panel, and that what they're looking at is over toward the far right. Notice there's one code, 013, 014, 015. So there's one code for each, and you're not having those combined. Another good improvement, once again, came from feedback, and it was something that was able to be worked out. We actually fixed 44 defects. Now, there's a lot on this slide, but the second one I found very interesting, run searches in the single search bar that include both the table ID and the full table title. That was a defect that's been corrected. Not every user, but we do have some users that is important for. And, you know, I keep mentioning feedback. That's why it becomes important, is we're doing everything we can to make this site as user-friendly as can be, but also based on what are the users needing, wanting, what's important to them. And it moves into things like this, and very successful with fixing 44 defects in a month. I mentioned a demo. We're going to answer this question in just a moment, and I'll show you how easy it is to navigate it. And if we think of our advanced search basically as answering a series of questions. So what we're looking for is we want to map Hispanic population from the 2020 census for all census tracts in Congressional District 2 of Arizona. So let me slip over here, and I'll move to Chrome. So it does not matter which browser you use. I found Chrome seems to work best, so that's why I'm using Chrome today. And what we're going to do is we're going to navigate to data.census.gov. This is census.gov. Numerous ways we can go to data.census.gov, but if it's your first time here, hover over the word Explore Data and click Explore Data Main one time. This will take us to a page at the very top, go to data.census.gov. So if you do not have this saved as a favorite, you'll see that it was literally one mouse click. I clicked on Explore Data Main. We go to data.census.gov. You'll notice there's a note here at the top. We won't worry about the details on that at this time. But you can see we're at the landing site. The single search is located here, but we're going to go to the advanced search because we're looking for the Hispanic population of the individuals in certain census tracts in a congressional district. So we go to advanced search. What we can start with is our years. You'll notice on the left-hand side, I've mentioned a couple of times about think of this as answering a series of questions. If we click on years and we go to 2020, because that's what we were looking for was decennial information, we've selected that box, and now we want to go to our geography. If I click on the word geography, the question had to do with the Hispanic population in tracts. So we go down and we select census tract. It's going to ask us what state, Arizona, and above all of the counties, notice where it says within other geographies, and it has that chevron. If we click that item to expand it, you'll notice we have state legislative, upper and lower houses, congressional district, and place. And we were looking for Congressional District 2. So I click Congressional District, and then just simply select Congressional District 2. And you'll notice that what it's asking is all census tracts or individual tracts. So we wanted all census tracts. Click all census tracts. And notice in the bottom right, I can click the word search. When I've clicked search, you'll notice that I have the tables over here that are available, which there's 6 tables available. Above this, you can click on the table on the left-hand side, or you can go up here to the top where it says tables. It's what I'll do today. I'll click tables here. And notice I have my data tables. And if I select the next one, occupancy status, notice it jumps to that. So you can jump to these as you go. And I'm going to table P2 because table P2 says Hispanic or Latino, not Hispanic or Latino. And you'll notice the very top has the word total. Directly underneath it is Hispanic or Latino. And as we pan from left to right, you'll notice there's a bar at the bottom to allow you to pan from left to right. This row for each tract 1.01, there is our total number of Hispanic and Latinos within that tract. And as we move across, you'll notice that stays there. So this is something that was added. So within other geographies. Now, we also mentioned maps a minute ago. You'll notice above this I have the word maps. If I click maps here, it's going to take us to a map, and I'm going to speed it up. It lands typically in the middle of the United States in Kansas, and then it moves over. We're just going to speed things up. I'm going to zoom in this area in Arizona, and you can see I have a color-shaded map with all of the tracts in Congressional District 2. If I zoom in, you can see the shape of the tracts, how they're actually laid out in there. We're looking at the total population. Now, our question a minute ago had to do with the total Hispanic population. I mentioned earlier on the slides, this area in the upper left, if I click the arrow, notice the second item is total Hispanic or Latino, which on the data table we had a minute ago, the second item was total Hispanic or Latino. So if I click this, I now am looking at the total Hispanic or Latino population for every one of the tracts, and you can see the color shading. As I zoom in, you can begin to see more and more definition, and the tract numbers come into view. So let me exit out of that. Go back to our PowerPoint here. The correct slide. So we've talked about some future releases now. We've talked about the past, what's happening right now. This is some of the things that we're working toward implementing. Navigation improvements are coming. Filtering enhancements. And more geography collections. All of the updates, keep saying this, we do are driven by user feedback. You can access the email address to tell us how we can make the site work better for you simply by clicking the feedback button in the upper right. And as a note, we're in the process of transitioning to a new email address. It will be census.data@census.gov. And now both the CED, FCI, CEDSCI.feedback and the census.data@census.gov will come to the same team. And they both work, they're working through the transition process. So feel free to use either one, but just realize we're transitioning to that census.data just for more clarity purposes as to what email address, which one to use. You can send data requests or feedback on how to make the site work better for you. It's just easier to remember and say. Either one of these will work. As a final note on this session, this part of our session, when you visit the link, the left-hand side of this page, we would also invite you to sign up for data.census.gov email updates, and then you'll be able to get our newsletter that we send out each month and the latest system updates, data releases, educational opportunities sent right to your email box. At this time, we'll go ahead and transition over to Deb.
Thank you very much, Ron. So we would like to invite all of you to take a moment and share your thoughts about today's webinar through an evaluation survey. Your feedback, as Ron stated, helps us design future training sessions. It helps us shape our website. And it also lets us know how we can improve on our training sessions, such as today's webinar. The link to the evaluation is in the chat box now or should be sent in a few moments here, and it will also appear as a pop-up window when you exit the WebEx event. So we certainly appreciate any feedback that you can provide. And if you have any questions remaining after our session concludes, please feel free to reach out to one of the email inboxes that is listed here on this slide. If you are a member of the public and have questions related to data.census.gov, please reach out to the Center for Enterprise Dissemination at census.data@census.gov. And for members of the media, you may contact the Public Information Office at pio@census.gov. So with that, thank you so much, Ron. I will go ahead and turn it back over to you.
Thanks, Deb. I just wanted to close out with 2 additional resources where you can learn one. One is by clicking the Help button on the landing page of data.census.gov. It takes you to a variety of educational materials. You saw some of the answers to our frequently asked questions in the earlier, just by the demonstration that we did. But we also have more information for recorded webinars on a variety of topics, video tutorials, PDFs with screenshots, step-by-step instructions, and more. As we continue to have major upcoming data releases, you can know that we will continue to add more educational resources here, including how-to materials for additional surveys. But finally, I want to put in a plug for your local data dissemination specialist. These are the team members that host census.gov/academy. They cover training across the Census Bureau, so not necessarily just related to data.census.gov, but they cover a variety of tools, and they cut across different surveys and programs. So any training need that you should be able to find some helpful information on census.gov/academy. We also have data dissemination specialists located throughout the country, and there is one assigned to your state. So if you'd like to request a training for your local organization, recommend taking advantage of the contact information in the bottom right of this slide. These training requests are provided free of charge. So feel free to reach out if you have any additional training needs. And before I turn this over to Lisa, thank you all so much for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you in a future webinar.
Yes, thank you all. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and we hope to see you in our next webinar. Thank you.
Thank you. That does conclude today's conference. You may disconnect at this time, and thank you for joining.